Hola, Dominik. Or should I say, guten Tag?
As you feel more comfortable, yes.
Or g'day. Welcome to Australia.
How are you?
Very, very well. So the German-born winemaker who fell in love with wine in Italy, makes wine in Catalonia in Spain.
Yes.
Based with drawing the Burgundian French inspiration, and now spreading the message in Australia, off to Singapore, Shanghai. You're a very worldly busy man, it seems.
Yes, that's true. Too much traveling.
Too much traveling.
Too much traveling.
It's Terroir al Límit, I think, is such a incredible and unique and inspiring story with what you've managed to achieve.
Thank you.
In Priorat. Such a great project. For those that aren't familiar with Terroir al Límit and what you've done there, can you give a brief background how you came from around Munich?
I came from Munich. I'm coming from a butcher family, so in my family, the cooking was the most important thing in the family. We went to the markets. My father was a good chef, and I love cooking. I love going to the markets. I love going to the restaurants. This is where my passion is. And I started falling in love with wine in London. I did some visit courses there, and then I did a trainee in.
What took you to London?
To study some English, because I didn't do that in school very properly. So I went to London to get a bit of a better English level. And and then I had the opportunity to go to Priorat because of coincidence. And I met the family of Mas Martinet and Sims de Porrera. And I spent 6 weeks there in the Sims de Porrera cellar. And after my studies, I have a business and marketing degree. After my studies, I went back to Spain to work a whole year with them.
So how old are you at this point? Yeah, like
I was
20s
25.
Right. So it's kind of later in some ways to get into the winemaking. Later in some respects too. You hear a lot of people, they came up in a winemaking family, or
yes,
they were in it from their teenage years or early
20s. No. This was not an easy one in the beginning. But I met good people. It's always about the people that you meet in your life that stimulate you to do something special, I think.
So you're working with the Perez family, and
then I met Eben Sadie from South Africa.
You met Eben Sadie. So that was when you were still working with the Perez family there?
Yes, yes. He came in 2000 to Priorat.
And I read somewhere that you came across Eben in just picking grapes?
We were picking grapes in the Mas Martinet vineyard, yes. And he came from one side of the vineyard, I came from the other side, and this is how we met.
And it was love?
Well, he's a great guy. We had a very good time together, yes.
And so from meeting him there, what then spawned the creation of Terroir al Límit?
Well, I went twice to South Africa. I made 2 vintages in South Africa.
Oh, wow.
And then we decided that we want to make a bit of wine in Priorat. And we started in 2001 with our first
where was Sadie Wines up to at that point?
He had his Columella already 1 year running, I think.
Right.
Yes.
So it's still quite early.
I think he started in 2000 and we started in 2001.
Wow. Fascinating.
Yes.
And why was he interested in Priorat? You'd been
He tasted some Priorat wines in London, and he was really curious about the expression of the place and the slate and schist and all that, and the historic vineyards, the old vineyards of the region. And he was very into European winemaking. He was very keen on learning more.
Right.
Yeah, and then he fell in love with the place and the people and the culture.
The challenge, I imagine.
Yes, exactly.
Because it is a challenge. I mean, if you haven't, I've never visited Priorat. I'd love to, but I know enough about the region to know. I have to come. I know you say this. Yeah, it's just around the corner.
Official invitation.
The official, yes, it's the official invitation. No, but it's a historic region. 1,000 years old since Vineyard has been planted there.
Yes.
But incredibly difficult farming and viticulture.
Well, everything is like that or like that. You have 2 possibilities. It's very steep. It's very rough. It's very dry. We had a really big problem now the last 3 years with drought.
Yeah.
It started to rain. That everybody saw that on the news in Valencia in a very, very drastic, very terrible way. But in Priorat we got some really good water, and it's looking much better now again.
When you started this project, you were buying fruit at the very beginning, obviously.
In the very beginning, we bought fruit the first 2 years, but then we bought already the Tosses vineyard.
Yeah.
And then shortly after, we bought the Arbosa vineyard. So we bought historic vineyards in the region.
And they're both based around the Terroir village around there.
Yes, both of them.
Yeah. What was did you have in mind what you wanted this project to look like from the very beginning? Because you have a very different approach to traditional Priorat grape growing and
we were very much influenced by Burgundy.
Yeah, okay.
With the different sites.
Yeah.
And also the bottle, we were the first winery that has chosen the Burgundy bottle for Priorat instead of Bordeaux.
Right.
Because as you know, the first movement was the foundation of Priorat through the monks. And the second was René Bavier father came to Priorat, but he planted Cabernet Sauvignon, Merlot, and Syrah. And he introduced the Bordeaux barrels, and he made very powerful extracted big wines. And I'm a food guy. I love Mediterranean cuisine. I love the Catalan cuisine. And I always thought that doesn't fit to the Catalan cuisine, these kind of really big wines. So I was always motivated to make a completely different style in Priorat.
So we just got the white wine here, the Pedro de Guix. We were laughing about my inability to pronounce that a minute ago.
Catalan.
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 Pedro de Guix, blend of Grenache Blanc, Macabeo, and Pedro Jimenez.
Yes,
and then
exactly.
the three traditional white varieties.
It's very, very old vineyards, 3 very old vineyards in 3 different villages on 3 different soil types.
Right.
Super complex.
And from all over Priorat?
Yes.
And what are the different soils that you find in those wines?
It's schist,
yeah.
it's limestone, and uvial, river soil.
Right, okay.
So we have 3 soil types.
And this is a beautiful wine. Like, I mean, it reminds me that there's a handful of Australian producers in and around the Barossa Valley that are using these old vineyards with these varieties that typically have been blended away.
Yes.
And just early picking and judicious use of winemaking to build texture.
Bit of
to the wines.
skin contact.
Yeah, and this reminds me so much of those, but with its own character. Like, are there many people in Priorat making white wines in this style?
More and more, yes.
Yeah.
Yes. It's a homage to Jerez. That's the idea of the Pedro de Guix.
Beautiful. But I feel like an extra level of intensity and richness as well, which is what you find.
It's
naturally.
very saline, the wine.
It's beautiful. I love this style of wine. Amazing.
I think you're going to leave that bottle for us, yeah?
You have to talk to me.
Yeah. No, that's a Dominik. Yeah. Beautiful. And so you mentioned about skin contact in the winemaking. We'll get to it as well in the reds, but the approach to how the Terroir al Límit wines are made. You mentioned earlier there's no oak barrels anywhere to be seen.
No, we are finished with the cutting trees. No oak anymore.
Yep. Now we just plant concrete.
No barrels, no fooders, nothing.
Yeah.
Only cement tanks.
Only cement.
And we are very happy with that choice.
How does this wine get made? You mentioned some skin contacts.
We don't have a destemmer. We don't destem. Yep. Everything is whole cluster. And on the whites, we have 3 days maceration. And on the reds, we have 10 days maceration with the skins and the stems. Then we press and we finish the fermentation in the tank. And we have very short aging also. We have only 8 months of aging.
Yeah,
we don't age anymore 16 months like we used before in fooders. So it's a much shorter aging.
Yeah. And you were mentioning, I'm not sure if it applies to the whites as well as the reds, but you were mentioning the big cements.
Yeah, the square tanks.
Square tanks.
Yes.
And so often when I'm talking to Australian winemakers, they love the concrete eggs. And
yes, I also have eggs.
For that, the rolling fruit and the texture that adds. But when there's so much texture and structure already,
you don't need that.
Grapes. Yeah, and
you
so
don't need that.
Can you explain what you're saying to me with the way that keeps the wines?
The square tanks don't give movement to the lees. So there's no extraction of the lees in the aging process.
Right.
So the wines are tighter, they're more straightforward, more saline.
Is that based on a technique or another region that you've seen making that?
Well, it's just an experience. It's tasting. We have different cement tanks, and we were trying the wines in different formats and different designs, and we saw that the square tank is the best solution for us.
Right.
Yeah.
So more square tanks.
More square tanks.
More square tanks. All right, we're going to go to the reds. All right, Les Magniers.
Les Magniers.
This is the flagship wine, I suppose, or the most famous wine.
Yes, this is the Grand Cru. This is a very, very old vineyard, 75-year-old Grenache, Garnacha Peluda. It's the hairy Grenache.
The hairy.
It's a special clone. It's called like that. It absorbs humidity in the vineyard, so it gives a bit more acidity. It's fresher than normal Grenache, the Grenache North.
And Les Magniers is up in the northern part of Priorat, very close to the
It's on top of Mont Saint Mountain, on 800 meters altitude, on a clay vineyard.
On clay, right? So, because Priorat on the Licorea schist,
Priorat is mainly
soils.
schist,
yeah,
Licorea,
yeah.
but then on the Mont Saint Mountain you have clay.
And how did you come across this vineyard?
Well, there's a very funny story. I was sitting with Eben Sadie in a little restaurant in Scala Dei, and a tractor came around the corner with a big truck full of grapes. And Eben jumped up. He's colorblind, and he jumped up. He said, can you see the blue color? It's so shiny. It's so special. And we stopped the tractor driver, and we started eating the grapes. And what you feel here, this Moroccan kind of spice market, rose petal, skin of the mandarin expression, we had on our pallets that very day.
No kidding.
And we talked to the tractor driver to show us the vineyard. And we went up there at the same moment, and we got some grapes in 2004. Right. And we vinified that in 2004, 2005, and 2006 we bottled it already as a Grand Cru.
Amazing, because it's not close. So your base where the winery is and your other vineyards around Terroir.
That's far away.
In the center of
Priorat.
Priorat.
1.5 hour drive away.
Wow. And
5
just happened
kilometers.
to see the tractor and thought, and the colorblind
It's a
Eben
beautiful
Sadie
story. Yes.
says, those grapes look good.
Yes.
They're a lovely color. Let's go drink.
And it's the truth. Cheers.
Cheers. How good. And then this has been the wine that probably helped put Terroir al Límit on the map.
Yes.
Some big reviews and a very different style. Like it's so silky.
It's completely different. Look at the color.
Yeah, gorgeous. We love Grenache here in Australia. Obviously, has some great old Grenache vineyards, and we're big fans of the modern style of Barossa Valley and McLaren Vale Grenache. And I love that less extracted, lighter, more perfumed style. And that's really
they're much more food friendly.
More food friendly, just more hairy. This. I'm kind of speechless drinking that. It's just gorgeous and very distinct. I mentioned the Australian comparison, and you see that maybe in approach, and not to all Australian vineyards, mind you. I'm just talking about the top echelon, but it looks very different. It looks very. I mean, you can say distinctly Priorat. I'm not an expert enough on Priorat wines to say that, but it's very different from what you would find in the Southern Rhone and Châteauneuf-du-Pape and what you'd find in South Australia.
But for example, in Gredos, we also have beautiful Grenaches, and also more in the south of Spain.
And that's 100%.
It's happening in Spain. It's a great movement at the moment. It's the new Spain, and the style is very different from what we are used to. And the people make much lighter wines, more fluent, more crispy, fresher wines. Very gastronomical style.
It does feel very Burgundian in shape.
Yes.
You know, that I feel like the whole cluster influence there must play a role in that. As you see
early harvest, the whole cluster vinification. It's a more infusion winemaking rather than extraction.
Yeah.
It's a completely different approach.
Because the structure and the tannin feels very integrated and the whole. It doesn't feel like it sits apart from the wine.
No, it's true.
Like that will age very well, I'm sure, but it drinks beautifully now as well. There's a freshness.
Yes. That's the beauty about Mediterranean wine. You can drink it young, but you can also age it.
Are there many other people, Dominik, in Priorat that are following your lead and looking to modernize the region?
The region is moving. The region is changing. You can see it. You can feel it. The people realize that the historic style of Priorat is having difficulties in the restaurant.
Is there a friction in that between the old guard and what you're doing? Like,
kind of, yes.
What does that look like in experience? Like, because you mentioned before about the certification, the Vineyard classification system that exists in Priorat.
That's still very traditional.
Very traditional.
Yeah, because they have also this typicity tastings.
Yeah.
And they have a certain expectation towards Priorat wine, and we don't always give them what they're looking for. Therefore, we stay away from that.
Right. So does that do you see that as a disadvantage for Terroir al Límit, or
no, not at all. I think we have enough. Our brand is strong enough now to move without that.
And are there others following your lead there, looking to ignore that classification? And
this I don't know, to be very honest. How is the situation for other producers? But I think more and more try to get into the pyramid, the official pyramid of Priorat, the Vineyard Classificada and the Gran Vineyard Classificada and this kind of things. I think the Vide Villa wasn't a great success.
Yeah, okay.
To be honest.
Do the majority of Priorat producers, are they growing their own fruit, or is it very negociant style? Or
both?
Yeah.
There's a combination. They have their own vineyards, but they're also buying fruit.
What about yourself? You manage most of the vineyards that you work with.
We have the domain. Terroir al Límit owns all the vineyards. We only, for the project of Historic, the Terroir Historic, that you know, This is where we buy organic certified grapes.
Yeah, okay.
But the rest is our own vineyards.
Is there more of a movement towards the certification and organic farming?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah,
It's changing.
That's great.
That's very good news.
Yeah, that's great. Let's have a look at the last one as well.
Yes.
Tosses. Let's toss this. This is one of the original cuvées.
This is our first vineyard that we bought. It's a Carignana on schist soil, on Licorelia, in 650 meters altitude.
Right.
Very beautiful vineyard.
So, Priorat red wines made of Grenache and Carignana.
Yes.
Grenache and Carignan for those playing at home. But you don't blend the two. They're distinct vineyards. Although
Yes.
there is one site you said that has them.
Well,
currently.
the Terra de Cookies is a blend,
Yeah.
but Abosad, Terra, Tosses, and Magnes are single vineyards.
And so not only are these vineyards obviously very different, but the varieties themselves are.
Well,
obviously
you
very,
have this
very different.
Grenache style with beautiful red fruit characters.
Yeah.
And on the other hand, you have the Carignan, which is more backbone and acidity.
Do most people just blend these varieties? Because they seem to work well together.
Well, it depends. If you have a really old, beautiful vineyard, you don't blend.
Yeah.
Then you make a single cru.
How old is those
The
Tosses?
vineyard is 110 years old. It's our second oldest vineyard. Abosa is even a bit older.
And how has it been farmed when you took it over?
Well, when we took it over, it's a bit of a sad story because these grapes went into the Sangre del Toro of Torres.
Right.
Torres brought a big truck every week on the plaza of the village. And the farmers, they just put their grapes and that was already fermenting when it went to Villafranca. This is the history of Les Tosses. And this is when we bought the vineyard and it was not organically farmed, but we changed immediately to organic and biodynamic farming. And the vineyard is just wonderful. It's a really beautiful two-hectare piece.
How did you come across this vineyard?
There was an old lady.
Grabbed
There
some
was an
grapes
old
off the
lady in
truck?
the village that recommended us the vineyard.
Right.
Maria.
Maria. Well done, Maria.
Yes, she's still alive. She must be 95 now, I think.
Wow. So differences. This has the traditional Licorea soils, the schist soils in the more center of Priorat.
Yes.
Compared to Les Magnes.
Yes.
It's it doesn't have the same exuberant perfume of the Grenache.
It's more about the depth.
The depth. But you make them the same, yeah?
Yes. So the vinification is exactly the same.
It's fascinating because you see I see a commonality in the wines in that mouthfeel and the softness and the freshness, but obviously very different flavor profiles. This is a little bit more almost like wild or like
There's a lot of garrigue in that wine.
Yeah, absolutely. The Grenache is just so like playful and charming and red fruited. And this is a little bit more restrained and has that kind of structure and line to it. So what's next then, mate? There's so many different projects now happening in Terroir al Límit.
Well,
what's the focus now?
Our biggest project at the moment is a new cellar. We need a new cellar. Right. We have to build a new cellar because where we are at the moment is very, very small and it's very difficult because it has different levels. It's very difficult to get the grapes into the tank, first into the cellar, then into the tank. And our team is a bit tired of carrying cases and lifting them up and again and again and again.
But not yourself. You mentioned now you don't do any of that now.
Well, this I do, yeah. I'm just not working so much in the vineyards anymore. But of course I am in the cellar involved. We have a beautiful team. My partner Tatjana, she's the head winemaker. We are making the wines together. And the new cellar is the big new project.
Fantastic. Well, look, Brad, thanks for today, for showing us the wines.
Well, it's a pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Oh, of course. Really nice to meet you properly.
Thank you.
Such a great lineup. And I think really speaks to what we love about wine as well, right? Like just the passion and the deliberate approach to try and take what is this incredible resource and these amazing old vineyards.
It's a wonderful region. Priorat is really outstanding in a special region with a huge potential.
Yes, we must come. I know.
You have to.
Why should people visit Priorat?
Because of the beauty of the landscape, because of it's very close to the sea, it's very close to Barcelona. There's a lot of cultural things happening. The food is wonderful, and
no traffic lights, I hear.
And obviously the wines, of course.
Yes. Beautiful. Dominik, thanks very much. The wines are
Thank you.
spectacular. Really good to meet you. Cheers.
Thanks, guys.